Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Russia has stepped up attacks on Ukraine's Black Sea ports and merchant shipping, prompting some ship owners to suspend their journeys to the city of Odesa and raising fresh concerns over global food supplies. And at the same time, diplomacy continues with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov being in Milan on Thursday on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, while President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is weighing a possible visit to Washington next week. Joining us now is Milan Lelich, political analyst at RBC Ukraine. Good to have you back with us here on TVP World. So, looking at the latest from... Good morning. From the Black Sea, we have seen more strikes. I mean, this, to me, looks very much we were looking at back in 2022 at the beginnings of this war, which completely had this whole maritime corridor stop as Russia attacked vessels. Are we now headed toward that same situation right now?
The situation is truly dangerous, but I don't think that it is the same because the situation in the region, in the Black Sea, has changed a lot since then, as Russia doesn't have any, basically any fleet there in that region. Some vessels that managed to somehow survive Ukrainian attacks are hidden very deeply close to the seashore, very far away at the furthest possible points from Ukraine. And still, from time to time, they are attacked by Ukraine. But we see that even without vessels, unfortunately, Russia is able to launch attacks here and there. And this is a truly dangerous situation. And I know that on Monday it will be discussed at the very top level here in Ukraine what to do with this, because this is like sort of a new factor, because we used to think that this maritime corridor, this route for both for imports and exports of goods from and to Odesa, that it's more or less safe, and all the ship owners, all the companies that are operating, that are dealing with Ukraine, they also consider it to be more or less safe, which is not the case now. So that's a new factor to be dealt with, and it's also another big danger is that this is the main route for exporting Ukrainian grain. And now we are coming into the harvest season. So we're going to have billions of tons of grain. So enormous amounts of grain that we will have to store somewhere, and moreover to somehow to manage to deliver this grain to the customers. It used to travel there via Odesa, via this maritime corridor. Now obviously it's going to be very dangerous, so maybe some backstop options should be looked for. We'll see. As of now, from what I know, there is no clear solution what to do, 1, 2, 3, and the problem will be over. Unfortunately, not so far.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Milan, this is a different situation, but at the same time, there are parallels. And I think what's interesting here is that it's ship owners themselves who are now refusing to make those journeys, so saying that the risk is too great. It's not that the government has said this on Ukraine, but this is coming from ship owners. So even though it is perhaps not like it was in 2022, as you've already said, this becomes now dangerous. Well, all those grain exports, you said it's almost harvest season. So if we're looking at the options right now, is this still something, let's say, that Ukraine and certain allies can, let's say, assuage those fears, or will we start having to think now of those backstops? Last time that was railway transport through Poland, also through Romania, but is it going to be as challenging this time around?
I think that obviously Poland and Romania, meaning railway via Poland, as you say, is a plan B. Another plan B is obviously getting this grain and all sorts of stuff to Romania. Romania has its own ports. From time to time, Russians have their military activities here and there near Romanian seashore, but fortunately they do not attack directly Romanian ports. so far. So maybe to somehow get the grain or to use the Donau River to somehow, again, to either to transport it closer to Romania or to look for different options. So these are like plan Bs that are obvious, that are on the table. I think that maybe different, some more political or geopolitical ways out could possibly be found, involving Turkey, involving possibly the United States, because the producers, they also have their interests and they have their own lobbyists here and there. So maybe altogether everyone will be able to persuade President Trump maybe to somehow interfere into this situation in order to create another maritime corridor deal of any kind, any sort. Another big factor is obviously Turkey and President Erdogan. I think that he is also interested in the normal business in the Black Sea, as normal as it could technically be in the wartime, but still in the functioning ports here and there along the coast of the Black Sea. Also, we know President Erdogan has quite close relations with Putin, so maybe in this direction sometimes may be done or could be done, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also in some capacities, the situation is even more serious. I mean, if we're looking at, there's some Ukrainian statistics here. Looking at, Ukrainian officials say Russia's attacked about 28 civilian ships in the month between the 20th of June to the 20th of July, and just one of those being the Golden Leo, right, where 10 sailors, or let's say merchant staff, were killed on that ship. Those are Indian and Syrian nationals. Seeing this right now in today's world and the perspective, does that change, let's say, the reaction potentially that the international community had? I mean, if we look at 2022, the losses were not the same. Now we have actual people who've been killed. Does this change the dynamic? Will the international community, let's say, be more involved in offsetting this? You mentioned President Erdogan already.
Let's hope so, because President Trump definitely is potential player number one in this whole story, but he is now absolutely immersed in dealing with Iran and Middle East situation. But still, next week, he's going to have a meeting with President Zelenskyy. Perhaps this issue will also be on the table, will also be a matter of discussion between them. And also President Erdogan, Prime Minister Modi, everyone who has more or less close ties and more or less normal relations with Vladimir Putin may try to influence their behavior. But I think that all these options, unfortunately, are quite limited, because now we are definitely moving in the logics of escalation. Both from Ukrainian side, we are widening our range of attacks and the different sorts of targets, and our strikes get deeper and deeper into Russia, causing more and more damage to their war machine, to their economic capabilities. So the Russians are mirroring our actions as well. So they try to cause as much damage also to our economy as it is technically possible. So now we are in this spiral of escalation. This is obvious, and how to stop it, it will not be an easy deal, definitely.
And you mentioned escalation. Let's talk about de-escalation, if that's still possible at this point. We've had that meeting in Manila on Thursday. For a brief moment, 30 minutes, Marco Rubio and Lavrov sat down. They spoke. Right after that, we heard that the United States wants to be constructive. They can. Rubio mentioned this Pearl program, this weapons, NATO weapons program in terms of selling arms to Ukraine. What do you gauge from that? I mean, anything constructive? We know, as you mentioned, Zelenskyy is going to the United States possibly next week. Any progress there in terms of de-escalation after these two men have met?
Well, for me, it was very important to hear publicly from Secretary Rubio. He said that a deal cannot be achieved if both parties don't want it. It seems like a very obvious and basic statement, but still it took some time for the American side to understand this, that this deal, the terms of the deals may not be and will not will never be imposed on Ukraine. So no matter what Trump and Putin agreed last year in Anchorage, perhaps they agreed that the US will convince Ukraine just to give up the entire territory of Donbas region. Our country said that this is like a non-starter, but still it took many, many months for the Americans to understand that this is a no way, that Ukraine will never just give up a huge swath of its territory. It doesn't work this way. It will never work this way. Now we hear it publicly that we need both parties to agree for a deal. If one, like Ukraine, does not agree, there won't be any deal. Again, very obvious, very basic thing, but still very important to hear from an official as high as Secretary Rubio, in my opinion. He also said that some new ideas have to be found, and this is basically exactly what I hear from different top officials, from people who are involved in the negotiation process, that as of now we don't have any real plausible ideas on the table.
On those new ideas, sorry to jump in there, Milan. We'll have to, on new ideas, we'll have to see what those are. Unfortunately, we'll have to end it there today. But always, thanks so much for your insights. Milan Lelich there from RBC Ukraine. And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more.